We're going to give it a few minutes for the room to populate.
Hi, Senator Berman. Good to see you again.
To see you. We were talking this morning on our call about the school district and COVID, so you're doing a great job. I know you guys are going to examine it. I'm sure you'll be talking about that.
We will. Thank you.
Great. The room is still populating, I see. We got quite a few visitors here. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our October Zoom meeting. We're having a great meeting today with we're going to meet our superintendent, Mike Burke, and we're going to hear a little bit about the other half of the penny tax. Yes, and we have Representative Schlossberg also going to be, we're going to have to put her on as a panelist. She came on. And right now, what we'll do is we're going to hear from our first responders. Just one thing first about our November meeting, Wednesday, November 3rd. It's going to be a terrific meeting. We're going to see that therapy dog that we promised for September, but we couldn't get to the Civic Center. We're going to see the therapy dogs from PBSO on Wednesday, November 3rd. And the presentation will be from fire rescue. We're going to see an overview of fire rescue, what's new, we'll see some department heads, how they're handling COVID. We'll learn all about that in November. And it's an in-person meeting at the South County Civic Center. We will be socially distanced and we will have refreshments too there. Just a few things. Development is always an issue here out in West Delray. And what's interesting is in the past month or so, we've had actually 2 more storage facilities that have been proposed, one near the Turnpike in Atlantic and one near Military in Atlantic. So we're looking to work on that. They are less traffic generators, which is good, but we try to make it so it's much less obtrusive for our communities and soften the look of these storage facilities. We're going to start now with Captain Sant. It's good to see you. Captain Sant, can you please give us an update?
Sure. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Looking forward to seeing everybody in person again as much as we can get into the Civic Center. Let me start off with this. I'm very pleased to announce that crime overall in West Delray Beach is down again quarterly. We're looking very, very good going into the year end. So just hopefully we can keep up the momentum with that. I will share with you, Laura, you mentioned I'm sorry, I just drew a blank. But we had the storage sheds. I'm sorry, it's the short storage sheds. We had multiple maintenance sheds at communities that have been broken into over the last few weeks. Good news is that we made a significant arrest on that. We identified the suspect. We set up surveillance on the suspect. So we caught him dead to right in the act. So we should be out of business for some time now. I'm going to discuss with you guys a scam that's come across my desk recently. It's really starting to alarm me. If you guys get a request coming in from either a Kevin or a Sean Wilson, those are 2 names that have been popping up on these screens. They're representatives from the companies, either Yahoo or Apple. Now, I will tell you this, when it comes up on your computer, it seems very authentic, it seems legitimate. And what they're doing is they're convincing you that your computer was hacked. And they're leading you to a screen to fix it. But before they're doing that, they're having you set up a Zelle account. So they're convincing our victims here to send them. We got one for almost $2,000 and then another one for over $9,000. So it's $11,000 roughly over the last few weeks that these individuals were able to scam. During a meeting with my peer commanders throughout Boynton and Boca, they too are seeing an increase as well. So please, if you could, put it out to your constituents, your friends, your families, that if you see something like this on your computer, and anything has to come up with Zelle, you're not going to remember everything I said, I understand. But if anything comes up requesting you to set up an account through Zelle and that your computer was hacked, please disconnect and notify law enforcement. Let us know that it's occurring. Last but not least, you guys all see the growth that's occurring in West Arrow Beach. We talk about it often, which is a direct impact on our traffic crashes as well. So our CMV, our commercial motor vehicle unit that we established about 2 years ago to combat this issue, these guys are part-time. These guys are motor units. It's a peripheral responsibility they have to their day-to-day responsibilities. Just give you a couple of stats. Year to date, we have conducted 305 traffic stops throughout West Arrow Beach in the South region. 84 state and DOT citations have been issued. 1,331 warnings on CMV-related infractions have been discovered, and 263 CMV inspections have been conducted. Now, I don't expect you to realize how the gravity of that, but recognize all those stats and efforts that's been conducted have been done by 3 motor units, just 3. We're not done yet. So as the growth continues here in West Arrow Beach and throughout the South region as well, we'll continue forward with that. That should take and have a significant impact on lowering our overall amount of crashes that we have in the area as well. All right, that's all I have this month, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again. Take care.
Oh, terrific. Thank you so much for that presentation. We always love to hear from you every month. And next month, we'll be seeing you in person. That will be great. And
right,
Chief Fund, great to see you this morning. Please give us an update.
Good to see everyone. Welcome to October. I pulled a couple of statistics I'll go over first. For the month of September, I got our call volume for September for the Alliance fire stations. Station 42, our battalion headquarters here off Hagen Ranch in Lake Ida, ran 440 calls. That was a 14 call increase from the previous month. A little note to that, Captain Sant had brought it up a month ago, and I kind of mentioned it about the vehicle accidents. Station 42 zone had 23 accidents last month, which was 10 more than the previous month. So we're still seeing a lot of vehicle accidents in the area, and I say a few of them have been fairly significant accidents with fatalities and injuries. So just be careful out there with your driving. As Captain Sant mentioned, as we get closer to the holidays, it's going to get even worse, I think. Station 45 off of Jog Road over by Kings Point, they were actually down this month. They ran 565 calls, down 100 calls, which is fairly significant for a 1 month change. And Station 52 in the Pheasant Walk community, they were up 170 calls, 29 more than the previous month. Station 52 over there, I mentioned last month that we received 9 new employees in the battalion. And some of the significance to that is Station 52, we upstaffed the truck. We permanently put a 3rd person on the rescue. That happened about 2 weeks ago. This is a big benefit, one for manpower for the crews when they're working calls, but it also helps with response times because it allows us to send a single unit to a call where in the past we had to send 2 units. So now we keep another unit in service for additional calls, and it helps decrease response times. So trucks from other areas don't have to travel so far to respond. So it's a big benefit to the battalion, and we're happy with the progress being made there. Just a couple other tidbits. October 9th starts Fire Safety Week. You hear it every year. This is the time, change your batteries in your smoke detector. If your smoke detector is 10 years old, get rid of it and replace it. We also, this month, October, is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You'll see a lot of the firefighters. We have our pink shirts in support of breast cancer awareness, and we'll be wearing those out in the community. That's all I have for this month. I look forward to seeing everyone in person next month for our first meeting. And I'll turn it back to you, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We really appreciate the update. We have 3 elected officials with us today. We're going to start with Senator Berman, then Representative Schlossberg, then Commissioner Mac Bernard. What a treat we have to have Commissioner Mac Bernard here today too, he had been mayor at one time too. So let's see, we're going to have Senator Lori Berman. Please provide an update. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Vinacore, and good morning to the Alliance of Delray. So happy to be with you. Wish it was in person. Next month when you have your in-person, I will be in Tallahassee, so we won't be able to make it, but hopefully we'll see you soon in person. As you all know, the COVID numbers are getting better in Palm Beach County, and I'm sure Commissioner Bernard will share a lot more information on that with you. Still do everything you can to stay safe and encourage vaccinations, but we're happy to see that we're trending in the right direction. As I mentioned, we are going to Tallahassee, and I'm so happy to be here with my colleague, Representative Schlossberg. We are gearing up and getting ready to for session, which starts early this year, so it starts in January. As always, if you have any ideas or suggestions, we're happy to hear them. My office is in the Children's Service Council building, and you're always welcome to call us or, drop in, write us a letter. We love hearing from you. Just a little preview. I think this is going to be a really contentious session. Usually in election years, it's not as contentious, but we have a couple really big issues that I think will be coming up. We're going to, first of all, it's our every 10-year reapportionment year. So that is always a big issue. Everybody fights over where the line should be drawn. And this 10 years is no different. So you're going to see a lot of discussion on that. And we do have the Fair Districts Act in Florida. So there is a mechanism for trying to assure that the districts are not gerrymandered. The second big issue is the collapse of the building in Surfside. So I hope we pass some legislation to really address that, because we saw what a horrendous tragedy it was, and we don't want that to ever happen again to any of our communities. And then a lot of you saw last weekend, we had abortion marches in Delray Beach and Boynton Beach and in West Palm. And our leadership has announced that they are going to bring forth an abortion bill, and there is a pending abortion bill exactly similar to very similar to the Texas bill, which is a 6-week abortion ban. I doubt if that will pass in Florida, but there will be something. So keep your eyes out. Those are all going to be really big contentious bills, and it's always my honor and privilege to represent all of you. And I can't wait till I can see all of you in person again. Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending, and we'll see you as soon as we can back at the Civic Center. We have Representative Emily Schlossberg. Great to see you.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Thank you, Lori. And yes, we do start committee weeks. We had our first interim committee weeks about 2 weeks ago, and we're coming back next week for committee week. So I won't be here as well for our next Alliance meeting. That will also be, I think that is also during a committee week. Just as Lori said, we are going to be, I actually sit on the Pandemics and Emergencies, Public Emergencies Subcommittee, which will be dealing with the Surfside building collapse. And we did actually receive Surfside recommendations from Broward County Mayor Geller. So I think we're going to be taking those into consideration when we start formulating legislation. They came up, it was a task force in Broward County that came up with about 14 recommendations for statewide legislation. So we're going to look at that. I also sit on the redistricting committee, and the redistricting committee, it's possible that we will be traveling the state, having hearings throughout the state. But if not, regardless of that, we do have a website, a revolutionary website that allows members of the public to submit maps onto the website. And Lori, I will send around that link after the Alliance meeting so that everyone can take a look at the brand new website from the redistricting committee. 2 pieces of legislation that I want to speak about that I've filed. First is the Emergency First Responder Protection Act. And what that would do, it would, when you're on the road and you see move over, where you see first responders and you have to move over, it would also say put it down. You can't talk on the phone while you're in those zones, in those move over zones. So I think that would go a long way for protecting first responders. And that came about as a request from Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. My second legislation is a bill that Lori and I have filed for the last few years in a row. And that is, it would allow school districts to opt in and put cameras on the long arm. Recently in Fort Pierce, Jaseni, a 10-year-old, was walking to her bus stop, and the bus it had its long arm out and the lights were flashing, and a vehicle overtook the school bus and hit and killed Yasini. This is a big problem. A study from the Department of Education came out that showed over 10,000 bus drivers were overtaken by vehicles in a single day when they were stopped with their long arm out. So this is a big issue, and I hope this session, we got it through a few committees last session, and I really hope that this session we get it passed in the Senate and in the House. So that's my report. I wish I could be with you guys next week, but good luck at your first in-person meeting next
Thank you.
month. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much for attending. And our Commissioner, Mac Bernard. There you go. Good to see you.
Good morning, everybody. This is County Commissioner Mac Bernard. It's great to be part of this meeting. I want to thank the Alliance of Delray for all of the great work that you're doing in terms of continuing to improve the quality of life for the residents that live in west of Delray Beach and throughout Palm Beach County. Thank you, Dr. Lori Vinacourt, for always being there to make sure that the commission is making the right decision. Was just happy to hear the update from Captain Sand from the Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Rick Bradshaw does a phenomenal job in terms of protecting our residents, and also to get the update from Chief Hund to provide the update in terms of from fire rescue in the county. And it's also great to see our superintendent, Mike Burke, to give an update. We haven't had a chance to work much, but he works with my wife on a daily basis. So really glad to see you to give an update to the Alliance, and congratulations on being the superintendent for Palm Beach County. To the residents of Delray Alliance, last month, what we did as a county was to make sure that we instituted a state of emergency. And that was just to primarily get the hospital numbers for the county. So what we do is we get a daily number of how many patients have been admitted for COVID and how many has been released. So in that way we can make sure that the residents know that we have enough hospital beds for our residents throughout the county. We're urging our residents to continue to get the booster shots. Some residents qualify for the booster shot or to get their third shot, either from Pfizer or Moderna. And then finally, a couple months ago, the governor announced that we would have the monoclonal antibody treatment in Palm Beach County, and it's at the Westgate Civic Center, where you can go in, because right now it's not even, you don't even have to make an appointment, you can just walk in. And so if you tested positive for COVID and you're experiencing symptoms, don't wait, and just go to the Westgate site, get your monoclonal antibody before you end up in the hospital. And just finally, what the commission will do is in October, we're going to have a workshop on the future of growth and development out west to deal with the Ag Reserve. And so Commissioner Sachs, who's the District 5 commissioner who represents the area, will be taking the lead in terms of the workshop. And we're urging the residents of Delray Alliance and some of the members to participate. So in that way, the county will make the right decision in terms of future growth in Palm Beach County. So thanks for having me. I really appreciate getting the opportunity to speak to the Alliance.
Thank you for all you do and for what you've been doing during this COVID pandemic. I know you're always right out there, and all the great decisions that you are making regarding our health and well-being. Thank you very much. And yes, for that October 26th Agricultural Reserve Workshop, we're collecting lots of information from all of our counties, our residents here in the West County area here in West Delray, and they're giving suggestions too. We're asking for that, and we'll be attending that workshop Thank you so much for coming today. Great to see you. And we're going to now go right into our program. It is so good to see you here. Superintendent Michael Burke. Today, he's going to be presenting. We're going to get to know a little bit about him, and we're going to hear about the other half of the penny tax. Remember, we've heard from Virginia Baker at previous meetings about the half penny tax, what it's doing for infrastructure in Palm Beach County. Now we're going to hear something about what we're doing for the school system with the other half. Go ahead, Superintendent Mike.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Vinacore, for having me, and Alliance of Delray. Happy to be here. Commissioner Bernard, it is a pleasure to work with Mrs. Bernard every day. She's a valued member of the governance team here and helps keep me out of trouble. You know, I'm going to jump in. We do have a nice sales tax update for you with the penny that's hard at work in our schools. I don't think I can get away with not talking a little bit about COVID. So I just, as you're probably following along, we're embroiled in a little bit of a fight with the state leaders. We have a state board of education meeting tomorrow. I'll be presenting that. But we are, you know, likely to face sanctions pretty soon from our state board of education, where they'll start withholding board member salaries. We are working closely with members of our local medical community to develop metrics so that we can, you know, as I've heard earlier, you know, the conditions are improving. We probably need to get a little further along, but we want to have pretty solid metrics so that we can help make these decisions. If we get to a place where we're comfortable bringing back that mask opt-out for parents, we will do that, but I want to do that in concert with the doctors. So, you know, COVID gets all the attention, but I can tell you now, being superintendent and being out in our schools, it's the teaching and learning is the focus. I mean, the students are happy to be there, to be back in person. I think there's new appreciation for being on campus from both our students and teachers. And I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing each day in our classrooms. So that's a really positive thing. And hopefully we'll navigate this pandemic and start putting it in our rear view mirror at some point. All right, so to the real topic here today. Oh, and a little bit about myself. I've been with the school district for over 23 years. The last 15 years, I served as CFO. There was a 4-year stretch where I was CFO and also chief operating officer and served as chief negotiator. That was during the Great Recession. We were pretty lean. So I kept taking on additional jobs. And that was a tough 4-year stretch. More recently, I went back to just being CFO. And now with kind of the unexpected resignation of our former superintendent, Dr. Donald Fenoy, I was appointed interim superintendent in late July. So I'm a little over 2 months into the job now. And things are going well. The school board has been very supportive. I wanted to let you all know Miss Brill really wanted to be here today, Miss Karen Brill, but her schedule did not allow, but I'm sure she'll be back at your next meeting. So with that, I am going to share my screen and give you a little update on the penny sales tax. Hopefully you can all see that.
Yes.
All right. So as you may recall, back in November 2016, we partnered with the county government and also our 39 municipalities, and we had kind of a joint ballot question on the ballot for this local government infrastructure surtax. And that was so that's a full penny. And through that agreement, it was determined that 50% of the penny's proceeds would go to the school district. And that made sense because the school district, we had the ability to go to voters on our own for a half penny. And we had tremendous needs. We had seen our capital millage levy, you know, the property tax levy we're allowed to, that we had for over 20 years, we were allowed to levy 2 mills. And that took care of the maintenance and the replacement of our schools and building new schools. And during the recession, the legislature cut that back over 2 years. They cut it 25% down to 1.5 mills. And as a result, we started losing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's why it was really necessary for us to kind of find this alternate revenue source. So we were fortunate, you know, it passed by over 56% of the voters. And it's allowed us to really do a great deal of work that was badly needed. We've got one slide here to just kind of highlight some of the projects within Delray. And the pictures there show you the new expanded Plumosa School of the Arts. So we've added the campus for the 6th through 8th graders, and they've got more performing arts space, and it's beautiful. I was there on the first day of school, walking the campus with the principal. They got it finished just in the nick of time. You could smell the paint was so fresh. But anyway, the kids and the teachers are really excited to be expanding into their new space. We also have a lot of work going on that we call facility renewal. And it's a little less glamorous. Like you don't get to see the new buildings, but it's a lot of the core systems, it's HVAC projects, it's roofs, it's, repaving parking lots. So it's not always as flashy, but it's nonetheless critically important that we keep up with that maintenance so we don't experience, when we lose air conditioning in a school here in August or even in October, it gets pretty hot pretty fast. So it's not a luxury, right? We have to make sure we keep all those systems running. But this just gives you a little list. You can see we've got work planned at Atlanta Community High School, Banyan Creek Elementary School. The design is underway. We've got construction. Carver Community, has already seen some construction completed that we will be wrapping up. We've completed design on Murakami Park and Orchard View. Spady's seen some improvements. And then we've got some future projects with Seacrest Training Center and the Village Academy. We also have a complete modernization of Pine Grove coming up soon. That'll start in 2023. When we say modernization, that basically means you knock the school down and rebuild it. And then we're going to rebuild our South Area Transportation Facility. We've also got some additions and remodelings with the Delray Full Service Center, which is next to Village Academy. I mentioned Plamosa. And then we have a Village Academy kitchen expansion in a few years down the road. So the sales tax revenue, we were a little scared when the pandemic first hit. Prior to the pandemic, revenue collections were coming in ahead of projection. We're at about 115% of projection. So that was great. And it's a 10-year, it's expected to go 10 years. We do have a sunset provision that in total, we said if we reach 2.7 billion by September of 25, we would basically sunset the tax a year early and it would end after 9 years. Our share of that, 50% is 1.35 billion. Right now, it looks like the sales tax levy will go the full 10 years. We would have to see revenue start coming in at basically at a rate of 125% of projection at this point to trigger that early sunset. But we continue to monitor it each month. Miss Leanne Evans is on the Zoom meeting here today. She's the one that really follows this closely, and she's also our liaison to the Independent Sales Surtax Oversight Committee, which both Lori and John serve on, and we greatly appreciate your service. You guys have made every meeting. You're always quick to RSVP, and that's critical to us because we have to get a quorum, and these are all sunshine meetings in the public. So thank you for your representation there. This is one of Leanne's charts, and this one will, it's a little bit of an eye test, but what I want to just kind of show is when the pandemic hit, and this goes month by month, and then within each month, you see 4 years of data. So left to right, that's January, February, March, April, and then it's the year 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. You see that April of 20, where the little blue chart just plummeted, right? And then in May, it was also far below prior years. But the kind of amazing thing was our economy, while we had this kind of 2-month dramatic setback, we quickly rebounded, and the sales tax collections are now, as strong as ever. So we are on track. We're at, I think, 114% of projection right now, maybe a little higher. And we feel pretty good about things. Fortunately, we're a resilient economy here in South Florida. And some of the implications of COVID, I guess, actually helped us, right? With people fleeing to Northeast to move down here. And even though a lot of restaurants and stuff were closed, people started buying appliances and other things. So we're doing pretty good there. We're not just sitting on this money. We're putting it to work. We're spending it. We spent over $436 million. We've got $76 million right now in open purchase orders. We've earned some interest on our revenue, which is good. It gives us more money to work with, $9 million. And we did establish a line of credit so that we were never waiting on funds. We want to be able to implement our projects when needed. That line of credit is kind of like a safety blanket. We haven't really had to tap it yet, but it's important because when we issue contracts to build a school or what have you, we have to have the money on hand. The sales tax is a big part. The sales tax has made our whole program possible for the next 10 years, but we did complement it with some borrowing. And we build a brand new school, we typically borrow for that. So some of the new projects you've seen, we We opened a brand new Verde Elementary School, which is now a K-8. That opened in August of 2020. This year, we opened up Addison Meisner K-8 in Washington Elementary School, and again, Plumosa this past August. And then we just broke ground on a new high school, which we have not had a new high school in Palm Beach County for over 15 years. So this is pretty exciting. And this is in the West Lake Worth area out there by Lyons Road. And then we have another new school that'll be opening in Boca, and that's the O5C. That's next to Don Estridge, and the growth, particularly with young age students in Boca, has been pretty incredible the last few years. All right, so when the pandemic hit, there was actually a couple things that really motivated us to approach the work a little bit differently. We were really well poised because we had this existing project that was that started in 2016 with the deployment of interactive smart panels to all of our classrooms. So we have over 12,000 classrooms, and we were well into that project, but we hadn't hit the finish line yet. So when the pandemic hit in March, as we prepared for the upcoming school year, we really pressed our team to say, let's complete that rollout by August. And we were able to do that. So every classroom had an interactive flat panel. That was a critical piece when we shifted to digital learning, because with that flat panel, it also provided the teachers with a camera, a microphone, and the ability to have that digital online connection to their students. So that was really fortuitous, right? That we already had the resources in place, and had kind of that vision to get to that technology pre-pandemic, or it would have never been possible otherwise. We also scrambled and bought 80,000 more Chromebooks so that we can ensure that every student had a Chromebook. We had enough for all 180,000 roughly students. And we knew we had when the pandemic first hit, we found we had about 15% of our families that were unable to connect. So we quickly partnered with Comcast and T-Mobile to provide either T-Mobile hotspots for free or Comcast Essentials for free to those families so they could get their kids online. And we continue to do that. We had a busy summer. Just the one thing about the pandemic is when the schools were closed and we were in that digital learning mode, it did allow the construction teams to get in there and do work without having to worry about disrupting instruction. So we took that advantage to kind of expedite some of the projects that were in the pipeline. I've mentioned the oversight committee a couple of times. This is just something that's been really important. Our district had a sales tax back in 2004. It was a half penny that ran for 10 years. And we had the ISOC committee back then. It was a great practice. It gives the voters, I think, a lot of confidence that the promises we make, are kept, and that the monies are well accounted for. Our facilities team and Ms. Evans do an excellent job of keeping it a transparent process. And, I was really pleased when the last sales tax wrapped up. The final report from the ISOC committee was entitled Promises Made, Promises Kept. So we had a very good, track record, and that helps us, I think, when we go back to the voters, that they can trust that we're not going to misuse the money, and that we follow through on the projects that are laid out. All right, so this gives you a little more detail. I want to point out just a few numbers here. When we first developed this plan to go to the voters in 2016, the total budget all in was about 1.7 billion. So that was 1.3 billion in sales tax money, about another 400 million in planned borrowing for some of those new schools. The current budget is now up to 1.9 billion, and the sales tax, will remain roughly the same. We've had to borrow a little bit more to build schools. The cost of construction has gone up. We've expanded the scope. When we first approved that 1.7 billion, some of those schools that are now K-8s were just regular elementary schools, but we needed to shift and go to K-8s to help alleviate some of the crowding at the middle school level. So we've expanded the scope, and we have experienced some rising costs. But all in all, we're on track, and we're on track to it's a 10-year program. We're forging through it. I don't want to pick on other districts, but you may have seen stories, the county to our south that really had a hard time with their bond program years ago, just getting out of the starting gate and delivering on their promises. And I feel really good about the work being done in Palm Beach County, that we've been able to keep everything moving along. All right, and if we have time, I have a couple short videos, but I think these videos speak a million words, and if a picture's worth 1,000. So I'd like to play these for you real quick. Just give you an idea of some of the work going on. Okay, now that song's gonna be in your head all day probably. But all right, I've got one more video. It's a little closer to home for you with the highlights of the Pomosa project. So I'll play that for you now. Oh, I was afraid of this. Please excuse the advertisement.
They're adding one building that will consist of 12 classrooms and an art wing, and the art wing is amazing. We'll have an art studio, a dance room, a chorus room, a strings room, and a band room, and a grand presentation area to display the art. The kids are really excited to be able to stay at Pomosa, and the first sixth grade class will be starting August of 2021, and then the following 2 years we will add the 7th and 8th grade. This is a initiative that was started many years ago, and many of our families have been waiting. Our students that are coming from Pomosa already have a vested interest, but we are really excited to include new families into our program. And what is really unique is that there is no audition for the arts program. The students can come whether they've ever taken an art class or just beginning art. We are open to all of them. No audition and no experience.
Okay, well, that pretty much wraps it up. This was just on a personal note. I know we were talking about the police dogs earlier. This is my security dog, Harper. You know, during COVID, I think a lot of people ran out and got puppies. Oops. Sorry. I'm going to stop sharing.
Great. Terrific job. And we do have a few questions for you.
Okay.
If anybody would like to ask a question, please write it in the Q&A that you have. And we're going to ask a few questions here, which we've come on here. The first one comes from, actually, we do have the media listening to us. Lexi Null from CBS 12 asks, I see that you're going to discuss emergency COVID-19 protocols at today's school board meeting. You just mentioned that mask mandates aren't going away. What, if any, changes are you considering making to protocol?
Okay, so we had a change by the Surgeon General in the emergency rule that's governing quarantines through the Department of Health. So we have to update our emergency policy to reflect that. What's changed really is before, where there was defined time periods that if a student was potentially exposed, that they had to go be sent home from school, whether they had symptoms or not, and then they could come back, you know, after 5 days, or if they had with a negative test. That's all changed now to where the new rule is that if students do not have symptoms, it is the parents' call. They can elect to either keep their children home or they can send them back to school as long as they're not exhibiting any symptoms. If they have any symptoms, then that all changes, and there's a forced quarantine. But that rule, I think that's a response to, at the start of our school year, we were sending home it was over 5,000 students a day, some days 4,000, 5,000. That started to come down as the as the positivity rate dropped in our community. We were down to about 12 to 1,300 students on any given day. And then with this Surgeon General rule, we've seen that drop to 500 to 700 students a day. So that's the big change tonight. But I am inviting Dr. Alonso and Dr. Andrick, who are from the Department of Health and Healthcare District. And we're going to lay out some metrics I've been working with the local doctors about that would give us that type of comfort to maybe make a decision. The policy affords the superintendent, myself, some latitude to rescind and retract or restore portions of the policy. So right now, face coverings are mandated. And the only exception is if a child has a medical exemption from their doctor. So that's a very relatively small number. You may recall we started the school year where parents could opt out with just a simple note from the parent. And we had, at the high point, we had about 12,000 students, or 7% of our population that was opting out. And then when the positivity rates got to be such a concern on August 18th, we changed that. The board changed the policy and we did a strict mandate on the face coverings. So that's the big question, is how much longer do we have to have this mandate in place? And that's why tonight I'm going to be talking with our doctors, presenting that to the board and saying, look, if we can get to a better place and we can sustain that for 4 weeks, then at that point, I'd be comfortable making the decision to roll back that mandate requirement and go back to allowing a parent opt out. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you for that thorough answer. I do believe that's pretty thorough. We have another question from one of our members. What is going on with the money being held back from PBC schools?
So I'm thinking that's what you probably read about in the paper, right? That since our school board has locally kind of defied the governor and the Surgeon General with that their emergency rule that said, that the parents must have the choice. We felt our board, was that they also have a constitutional authority to protect the welfare of our students and employees. And they felt like that was their overarching responsibility. So that's why we're embroiled in this kind of legal conflict. We have not had any money withheld yet. This could be a two-part answer because there's different pots of money. We're under threat of having money withheld that equates to our board member salaries. That has not happened yet. But again, I mentioned earlier, I have a meeting tomorrow with state board, and I expect at some point soon, they're going to start withholding board member salaries like they've done in Broward and Alachua County. Now I'm thinking about this question. That question may reference the American Rescue Plan, right? So the state, that's been in the news as well. We in Palm Beach County over the next 3 years are going to have almost $400 million through the American Rescue Plan. And Florida is the only state in the union that has not successfully applied to begin drawing those dollars down from the federal government. They were supposed to comply by June 1st and have their application in. And now we're here in October and our state has still not done that. So it wasn't an immediate concern because we've had 3 rounds of ESSER funds, the federal money. We had ESSER 1, which was all spent last year. We have ESSER 2, which we're spending now. And the ESSER $3, we're going to start impacting our schools later this school year. So as more time goes by, I'm getting more and more concerned about, what's this holdup between the state and the federal government? And it's big money at stake. It'd be hard to fathom that our state would walk away from billions of dollars to support the needs of our students, to help them recover from COVID, to address the learning loss, both academic and social emotional. But, I suspect there's maybe some political issues that are above my head and, at the state and federal level. So again, I guess when you say talk about money being withheld, I guess it's a little sad. I have to think of, that could be 2 or 3 things. But anyway, hope that answers it.
Thank you. That does answer. I'm just going to add a spotlight right now of Representative Kelly Skidmore, who came on. She had something she had to do. She just came on a little later. So just want to say hello to Kelly Skidmore while we wait for another question from the audience, but we don't see any right now, but good to see you.
Thanks, Dr. Vinacore. Nice to see you, Superintendent Burke. Thanks for that presentation. Lots of exciting things happening with our schools in District 81. So thank you for your leadership on all these issues. and, you know, your stalwart protection of our students is very, very well um, received, and we appreciate that as well. Thank you, Dr. Minikor, for the opportunity to say hi to all your members. Sorry I was a little bit late, but happy to be here and always learning what is going on with the Alliance of Delray.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
And what we have here is we actually don't have any more questions. You actually gave a terrific explanation of that half-penny tax and a great introduction to everything that's happening here in Palm Beach County with the school system and the infrastructure for the school system. Thank you so much for attending, Superintendent Mike Burke. And this is actually the end of the meeting. Please, everyone, do come to the Civic Center next month, Wednesday, November 3rd. Great to see everybody here. And Mike and Katie, hello. They always say hello to us when they come online here. It is so wonderful to have a wonderful membership that we have in the Alliance of Delray. We appreciate every single one of our communities and all the leaders that represent those communities. Have a great month, and we will see you on November 3rd. And please always remember, read that newsletter that has a tremendous amount of information in it. Next month, we'll have fire rescue and we'll have PBSO, and that will be a wonderful meeting. See you next month. Thank you so much for coming, Superintendent Burke.
Thank you.
We're going to end the meeting now.